Okay, we are live. So today we are Boxing Day, the Saturday, December 26th, 2015, and we have John Page here from the UK. It's around 6:22 in the evening for you, John.
You got it? Yes,
Something like
exactly.
that. Now John is an osteopath, and he's a cranial osteopath. He works with the skull and the bones, and he has a very broad understanding of dental issues and how dental issues in the skull, uh, uh, dental issues in the mouth affect the skull, and how movement of bones in the skull and position of teeth can impact the entire body. So, so John, would you like to start?
Sure. What's the question?
Well,
Oh, would I
oh,
like to start? Yeah, okay, that's the
well. See, I
question.
guess this is a different interview because you
Yeah.
have a different background. And
Okay.
my first question is always, would you ever retract the maxilla? How does it impact the airway? How do extractions impact the
Okay.
airway? I guess my question to you is, what are some of the consequences you've seen with children or even adults who've had retracted maxilla and
Well,
uh, and extractions and different?
there is a very common procedure here
Yeah.
that's done on young people, early teens through late teens, which is removal of perfectly healthy first bicuspids. That's the one, two, three, four from center. I don't know how you number things in Canada, but it's the one next to the one furthest left and right from the eye tooth. So it's the first premolar, all four removed, and then they crank the remaining teeth together and try and straighten them. The idea of removing the premaxilli is that the mouth is deemed to be overcrowded, and so by removing teeth, they'll make space to straighten the others and make more room for them. Now, that is a very naive piece of mechanics. It's fundamentally unscientific as regards palate and jaw development. Um, One of the functions of the teeth is to create space in the palate and the jaw. It's what causes the palate to grow and the jaw to grow. Without teeth there's less to encourage growth of palate and jaw. So it's exactly the opposite of what should be done. The correct techniques are widening the palate in a very gentle way, and I might say more about that in a moment, a way that where you're working with the body and how the body is most inclined to respond to that gentle encouragement of widening. We find that the lighter the forces, the more satisfactory and the more permanent are the results. Having widened the palate, the teeth are then gently coaxed back into line, again with very light appliances, light wires, elastics, that sort of thing, and monitored. And other therapies should be employed, like my own craniosacral therapy, to encourage the body to catch up and keep up in a homeostatic way, and in other words, a way which is moving towards rather than away from health. So that's our strategy with that sort of thing. But that is a common practice, removing those premaxilla and tightening up the whole setup to make it look right. I guess that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess like for myself, I was given a cervical headgear, and it pulled my maxilla back, and I started, I've been fatigued my whole life, and finally I'm on CPAP, which has alleviated the symptoms. Um, but have you seen that a lot? Have you seen people?
Well, I haven't come across it in my own practice, but I've read about it and heard about it. It may be done more in North America than it is in Europe. I don't know. I don't have the global view of orthodontic practice that a dental practitioner would have. I only see what comes through my office door and what people tell me about at conferences and things like that.
Yeah,
But the principle is the same. It's exactly the opposite of how nature works. A further thing I would say, Omar, um, in development, that is, in the growing child, the development of the jaw, the mandible, tends to follow that of the maxillae. Where there's reasonable dentition, a reasonable population of teeth, the way the teeth interlock, which we call occlusion, the way they meet with their little cusps, little spikes and troughs, encourages the jaw to follow the maxilla. The lower teeth are always seeking the ideal occlusion with the upper teeth. This therefore guides and supports the development of the jaw. So you can say that get the maxilla right, the palate, and the jaw has much more chance of developing correctly. It's as if the maxillae lead, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
When you do the opposite of that, you're causing utter mechanical mayhem. Never mind other consequences.
Got it. So these people believe that, some orthodontists believe that if you stunt the growth of the maxilla, somehow you promote the growth of the mandible. Somehow there's this inverse relationship.
I've never heard such a thing, and I would be astonished if there's any evidence.
There's no evidence, but there's a paper I have up on the Right to Grow website, and it's a I can't remember the paper, but it's there, and the orthodontist is writing about the consequences of cervical headgear, and he says that when cervical headgear was used, decades ago, people thought that it encouraged the mandible to come forward as a result of compensating for a threat to airway patency.
Well, I can see the logic of that, but to say that it's myopic and short-sighted, both conceptually and in terms of consequences, would be understating it. I mean, what you're saying is, if you make the top jaw smaller, it's going to catch up or catch down with the lower jaw. Of course it is, because what you won't be able to do once it's developed is reduce the size of the mandible. But what we would do is I say the more enlightened functional orthodontic community, of which I'm on the edge of which I am, is to say, look at the TM joints, X-ray them, check them, palpate them, move the jaw around, see how it responds. Look at the position of the temporal bones, which carry the female part of the TM joint. The temporal bones, incidentally, are highly mobile. They're designed to be very mobile. They almost float around between their neighbors, the parietal and the occiput and so forth. So, you've got a situation there which, like any other vehicle, any other piece of kit, is designed to be in balance and has a particular functional design. And by doing what you're saying, you're grossly interfering with that. I mean, you're destroying it, really, destroying that relationship. So you start with actually masticatory problems, neurological problems. You're probably inducing quite severe trigeminal neuralgia or something like that down the line, probably causing tinnitus, ringing in the ears, heaven knows what, and all sorts of other consequences.
Hey, John, would you bring the mic up a little bit?
Yep. Is that better?
That's much better. Okay. So, how does someone who's had this orthodontic interference, or these problems caused by missed growth in the maxilla or extractions, what do you do for them?
Right. What by you? I'm taking it. You mean our community in general?
Yeah.
Me not being a dental practitioner. Recreate space in the maxillae first. As far as I'm qualified to say it, but it is very much an individual case-by-case thing. You've got to treat the person as a unique individual, which they are. That's the only scientific approach. But these are the sorts of ingredients in a typical procedure. Expand the maxillae, can be done with light appliances. It might be necessary early on to do temporary things with the teeth, like plates, temporary crowns, bridges, whatever. I don't know. It's not my area of expertise. But something might need done to follow and maintain and encourage and support the expansion of the maxillae. At the same time, they would want referral to some kind of cranial manipulator, such as myself, or cranial osteopath, who would encourage and maintain the mobility of the palate. That's really important, because at the edges of the palate bones are the areas, the lines of growth. So the more ease there is between the bones of the palate, and between the palate and the sphenoid, particularly behind it, with which it has major articulations, get space in there, and the periostea are free to get healthy, and you'll get bony deposition and they'll start to grow and expand,
And does that
which they
happen
will do even in an adult.
even in adults? Okay.
Yeah.
Even in adults.
So that's where we start. But then how you follow that, how you take care of the TM joints, which might even require surgery in some cases, and that's radical, heavy end stuff, but it may be necessary. But you need that maxilla to follow, and there are all sorts of clever appliances, techniques, and with proven track records that can help to do that.
Okay.
I've had a little bit of that done myself.
Cool.
I had some of this work myself, but I haven't had done what you've described.
Okay. I'm gonna put the recording on pause because we're at 10 minutes. Just want to keep the files small, so I'll hit pause.